Contact us on Codec if you have any questions.
Control, it's Raiden. I'm on the ground.
Copy, Raiden. Glad to hear it. Entering on foot was the right move. That craft isn't equipped with stealth camo. Or octo camo, obviously, since that would be useless in midair.
And we wouldn't want to get your pricey new jet damaged, now would we?
Duh. The MQ-133C was not cheap, Tovarich. Now, keep alert. According to intel, you could find significant cyborg deployment here. If you were to be cornered by an entire squad, it might get difficult, even for you.
Understood. Some fighting will be necessary, though. I've got electrolytes to replenish.
This is not an infiltration mission. There is no need to hide or avoid combat outright, huh? Just do not get reckless. Stay safe, and stay focused on your mission. Raiden, there's always a chance the MQ was spotted before your drop-off. I would not be surprised if hostile cyborgs were already en route to your position.
A little welcoming party wouldn't be so bad. I could use a warm-up.
Enough with the attitude, Raiden. It's time to be serious. This is no game. I need you to focus. Many people are counting on you, and I don't just mean here at Maverick.
You don't need to remind me of that.
Good. The last thing we need is another clever cowboy shipped back to us in pieces. On Codec is fine. Just be sure you are serious on the battlefield. Your enemies will be.
Yes, sir.
You're familiar with your new body now, yes? Then let's begin the warm-up. Slash at something. A palm tree, perhaps.
How we doing, Courtney?
You're looking good on our end. GPS and audio-visual feed coming in fine. Energy consumption? Check. Damage levels? Check. Blood pressure, brain waves, blood sugar? Check, check, check. All this monitoring equipment, I got a better view than if I was standing right next to you. Anyway, I'll be saving all your data automatically anytime something important happens in the field. But contact me anytime you want a manual save.
Copy that. Good to hear that hasn't changed with this new body.
Yep, the basic system's exactly the same. So, did you want to save? Roger that. Let me know if you change your mind.
Copy. And glad to hear you're okay after Africa. That ambush was no joke.
Tell me about it. 3 armored vehicles should have been plenty for that job. And it would have been against any typical guerrilla force.
I keep asking myself, where would an anti-Imani faction get the cash to hire cyborgs?
It just doesn't add up. Maybe there's some intel I missed. A lead I should have followed up on. Maybe if I reacted faster or coordinated better. I don't know.
You can't think that way, Courtney. Not in this business. You did everything you could. Put it behind you and move on.
You're right. Thanks. Raiden, you need to save? Roger that. Save complete.
I wanted to follow up on our talk earlier about the stress that comes with the job. PMC work can be traumatic, even for non-combatants. If the pressure ever gets to be too much, have one of the ex-military there take over.
I'm not doing that, Raiden. PMCs wield massive influence over international affairs. Abolishing SOP didn't change that. They need a better understanding of what they're mixed up in. The laws, politics, local cultures. Ex-military aren't here to provide that. They can't. We need civilian voices like mine here, too.
You're right. Just take care of yourself.
Don't worry. Africa was more than enough excitement for one lifetime. It's a good thing that limo was armored.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'd now be the world's clumsiest cyborg.
Hey! Cyborg Courtney could have been your partner. I might have saved your ass.
How? By spilling coffee all over the enemy?
Oh, come on. I'm not that... Oh, son of a...
Please tell me that was a joke.
Roger that. Save complete.
You saved me again, Courtney.
Right. Anything else? Otherwise, I should get back.
Actually, yeah. You mentioned SOP earlier. How much do you know about it?
The Sons of the Patriot system? Same stuff as anyone else in the industry, probably. Basically, a nanomachine software combo for controlling contractors. Used to be required for all PMCs. Soldiers couldn't fire unless their ID matched their weapon and they had clearance. From their commanding officers. And the rules of engagement, I mean. It had some mental effects as well. Moderating pain, enhancing concentration, that sort of thing. The idea was SOP would minimize arms smuggling and civilian casualties.
A kinder, gentler war. An oxymoron, any way you look at it. Civilian deaths did drop, though.
Because soldiers in the system could coordinate in real time, share info. Between that and the ID weapon locks, a lot of people felt better about employing privatized military. The irony is, the system was developed based on criticisms of PMC ops, mostly American interventions. SOP propaganda said it would put limits on the war market. What it really did was shift market share over to the PMCs. Civilian deaths went down, but total casualties just kept on climbing.
More than ever, war was big business.
And business was booming. Until SOP got hacked. Suddenly, everyone realized how dangerous it was to have a single system controlling entire PMCs. That was the beginning of the end for SOP. Public opinion on privatizing war did a 180. After that, a lot of local conflicts and civil wars died down. The PMC conglomerates had to split up and downsize just to stay in business. And that about does it for SOP 101. Class dismissed?
Not bad, Professor. But it's not the whole story.
No, I know.
Let's finish this later. I better keep moving.
Raiden, you need to save? No? Well, watch yourself out there.
Looks like a war zone out here.
The palace cleared out quick when Dolzayev's men showed up. The streets got pretty hot after that. We're definitely gonna see a few civilian casualties here. Luckily, it looks like most of them got out of the city before things got bad. They've basically got control of the entire town, and are using the refinery as their HQ.
And that's why we're hitting the plant.
Keep in mind, those cyborgs are contractors. For most of these guys, this is just a job. In theory, once you eliminate their commanding officer, they should scatter pretty quickly. We've confirmed 3 key captains in Desperado. Their code names are all wind-themed. The captain presiding over this coup is called Mistral.
Cyborg?
Yep. All 3 have got custom-made bodies. Collectively, they're known as the Winds of Destruction.
The what? They all have action figures, too?
You're one to talk, Mr. Lightning Bolt.
Who told you?
Courtney. Now that sounds like an action figure.
I didn't choose it, trust me.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I doubt the Winds of Destruction picked their names either. Different cultures use language differently. Even ones with a decent command of English. As you can attest, Mr. LB. We've confirmed 3 key captains in Desperado. Their code names are all wind-themed. The captain presiding over this coup is called Mistral.
Cyborg?
Yep. Yeah, different as...
Doktor, you have anything more on these cyborgs?
Only what we went over in your briefing. If you had been paying attention, standard military-grade cyborgs. MCFC integrated carbon nanotube muscle fibers. Impressive response time and power yield when focused correctly. Most will likely possess extrasensory skills as well. Infrared vision is almost standard these days. They can function without breathing for short periods of time.
Okay. Nothing I didn't already know.
Not all cyborgs you face will be the same, of course. You may notice a range of different capabilities. It all depends on the manufacturer. Muscle fiber and neurotransmission technology is advancing all the time. Of course, you have the very latest science has to offer. A typical cyborg is no match for your equipment.
If you do say so yourself.
No, I realize combat is about more than the equipment. Situational awareness, predictive ability, nerves. One must determine a course of attack or defense and execute on a moment's notice. Reaction time is key. Cyborg enhancements do not change that.
Agreed. Doktor, about my fuel cells, the electrolytes. Do all military cyborgs use the same type? I'm not gonna run across anyone, you know, incompatible with me, am I?
An excellent question. Your fuel cells, like any other, operate much in the same way as a typical battery. They do not need replacing after a single use, of course, and they do not require recharging. They do, however, require a fuel source.
That much I know already.
Yes, there are several different types of fuel cells. phosphoric acid, MCFC, molten carbonate like yours, solid oxide, and so forth. Each type can be further divided into classes, each which runs on its own electrolyte material. However, all current military cyborg MCFCs run on the same one electrolyte.
That's good news.
Why all the same electrolyte, you ask? The answer lies in the catalysts that help make up your carbon nanotube musculature. It was breakthroughs in researching these catalysts and CNT manufacturing that enabled large-scale production.
Breakthroughs that happened after all the data the Patriots were covering up finally leaked.
It could not have happened without your help, Raiden. Science owes you a great debt, and I do as well. Working on your body has been quite educational.
Raiden, if you ever get lost, use Augment Mode to check your next objective. By using Augment Mode, you can see enemy positions and the direction in which you should head. Useful for when you cannot find your objective on the solitone radar. Raiden, if you ever get lost,
Sorry, man, but I have to ask. Where did Mr. Lightning Bolt come from anyway?
Ugh, seriously? All right. Well, I told you where I got Raiden from, right? World War II, the Japanese had a plane called Raiden. The Allies named it Jack.
Yeah, I remember.
And my real name's Jack. So yeah, they codenamed me Raiden.
They being the Patriots.
Mm-hmm. Never really suited me. But it's better than... Jack just reminds me too much of the past.
I hear you.
Someone once told me, you can find your own name, and your own future. After that, I dropped Jack for good.
Right. And this lightning bolt business?
Well, the Rai part of Raiden means thunder, and Den is electric. So Raiden is basically lightning bolt.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I was explaining that to Inmani, and he just busted out laughing.
So he called you that as a joke? He was basically just giving you shit.
Yeah, he actually had a pretty good sense of humor. He was one of the most charismatic men I'd ever met. I don't know much about politics, but being around him, you could just tell he was a natural leader.
Such a goddamn shame.
Mm-hmm. I won't let it happen again. Desperado ends here. Comic book villains and all.
Yeah. We're counting on you, Mr. Lightning Bolt.
Oh. Kev, let's go over everything we have on Desperado.
Roger that. Let's see here. Desperado Enforcement, LLC. Registered in the U.S., Delaware.
Makes sense. The U.S. doesn't regulate PMCs too closely.
Looks like almost all of their actual business is handled outside the States, though. Says here their financials are handled by a separate company based in St. Kitts and Nevis.
The preferred tax haven of megacorps everywhere.
Probably why they incorporated in Delaware in the first place. Loose tax laws. Funneling it all through the Caribbean must help with the money laundering, though. There's still a lot we don't know about them. But they've definitely been starting a lot of fires lately. They're a PMC in name only. What a name it is. Guess War Profiteers Incorporated was taken. But that's their business. In a nutshell, target war-torn nations on the road to peace. Reignite conflicts and walk off with all the cash that was earmarked for reconstruction. They also have ties to the drug trade, human trafficking.
Sounds like a real class act. One thing I don't understand, Kev. Desperado must be violating all kinds of laws here. Why hasn't the international community gotten involved?
Well, from a purely legal standpoint, it's actually not so cut and dry. First, there's the fact that Abkhazia is still not a member of the UN. Only Russia and a few other breakaway states even recognize it as a sovereign nation. In the eyes of most of the international community, Abkhazia is technically still part of Georgia. Which would make this an internal Georgian issue.
Guess you can't really call it a coup if the displaced government was never seen as legitimate.
Exactly. And even if everyone agrees it was a coup, it can be tough to tell which regime is more legit. Sometimes you'll see the military topple a dictator and establish a provisionary government, for example. Now, if they confirmed atrocities were taking place, the UN could deploy troops, recognize government or not.
Yeah, but they learned their lesson in Somalia.
Right. Ever since then, they've been a lot more reluctant to get involved in civil wars. Raiden, head for the oil refinery.
Need something else?
I thought we'd get back to our little history lesson. What do you know about the Patriots?
I know that they were behind everything we talked about before with the SOP system. People thought these 12 guys controlled world politics and the global economy from the shadows.
And they were right. Except there weren't 12, and they weren't guys, or even human. They were massive AI networks.
All the better to gather information on a global scale, or censor it if they wanted. They'd manipulate factions to keep wars raging, all while selling arms to both sides. The PMCs made billions too, of course. SOP was the Patriots' masterstroke. They could control battles directly, down to each individual soldier. The system might even still be around if the AIs hadn't all been destroyed.
I'm impressed. You know your stuff. Not many people have even heard of the Patriots. More than when they were active, but still, not many. Almost no one knows they were AIs, or that they're the real reason SOP went away.
Well, the few that do know aren't going to talk about it publicly. Even the world leaders.
Especially the world leaders. The people would panic, assuming anyone believed them, which they wouldn't. You can find speculation on the net if you look hard enough. Some of them get pretty close to the truth. But the stories never made it into the mainstream. Just another conspiracy theory.
I'm not surprised. It's a little hard to believe, you know? It just sounds crazy. When Kevin briefed me about all this in orientation, I thought it was some kind of BS detecting test. All right, then. Hey, Raiden, let me ask you something. The Patriots. Why would AIs do all of that? I can see why people would want all the money, but AIs? What did they stand to gain from it all?
Who knows? Maybe they didn't even know. Optical Neuro AIs aren't your typical PCs. They learn over time, change in unpredictable ways. The core AI, JD, was bent on expanding the war economy. Maybe to fund the Patriots' other activities. Or maybe that's just the way it evolved, like a secondary objective that took over. One of the other AIs said it was created to filter out unnecessary information, gossip, trivia, all for the sake of future generations, to drive the evolution of the human race. Or so it said. Was that the truth? Or a lie? To manipulate me? Who can say?
To think. Something like that. Running a nation. And America, no less. It's terrifying. Thank God they were all destroyed.
But did it really change that much?
Maybe not. Contractors still gotta eat after all. Soldiering for hire's always been a risky business. But at least before it was good money. There was a decent chance you could get rich and retire early. All that disappeared during the SOP years. Demand was high, but the workforce was flooded. More and more soldiers were willing to work for cheap. It got so you'd have to work years before you could even pay back your initial training and insurance fees.
Yeah, I can see Sundowner's point.
The global recession certainly didn't help. Unemployment shot up across the US and the EU. Even if contractors gave up and packed it in, there weren't any jobs waiting for them back home.
The irony is the recovery was all war-driven. It wasn't a general recovery at all. Not only did globalization exploit the poor countries, but it crippled first world employment too.
And SOP's gone. But now we've got these PMCs that are basically mobsters. Just thugs in uniform.
Yeah, not a pretty picture.
Raiden, you need to save? Roger that. Save complete.
Didn't you say you'd been here before, Boris?
Once, back when it was still Soviet territory.
Seems like it'd be a lovely place, if it weren't a war zone.
The Pearl of the Black Sea, they called it, back when more Russians lived there. It was a very popular resort spot for the USSR. This is before the wall fell, of course. Then Russia and Georgia began to fight over the area.
Kicking off the war in the early 90s.
Georgia was a Soviet republic. Abkhazia, a semi-autonomous state within it. The Soviets liked to stoke ethnic rivalries between the two. And not just there, in all the outlying territories. It kept them easier to control.
But with the Russians no longer watching over the two.
The Abkhaz were scared. They knew an independent Georgia would swallow their nation sooner or later. So they took advantage of a Georgian military coup to declare their own independence in '92. Of course, the new Georgian government was not happy to hear this, and so...
The same old story.
And with Russia supporting the Abkhaz, it was a stalemate. 2 years later, the ceasefire meant Abkhazia was finally independent, but not officially. They still are not formally recognized by Georgia, or most of the international community.
This region is filled with breakaway states.
This is true. There is South Ossetia, also in Georgia. Transnistria in East Moldova, and Nagorno-Karabakh, which broke from Azerbaijan. In any case, even Russia did not officially recognize Abkhazia as independent until 2008. So it was not long ago Sukhumi was a war zone. It has changed dramatically since then. They have been rebuilding steadily, with Russian support, ever since SOP was shut down.
Good to hear. But doesn't that leave them wrapped around Russia's little finger?
It does. Which is why Dolzaev is calling for a truly independent state. He wants an Abkhazia that takes orders from no one. Not Georgia, not Moscow.
Sounds like a worthy cause.
But many Abkhaz are happy with the reconstruction Russian support makes possible. Few of his fellow countrymen were interested in what Dolzaev had to say. At first.
And then Desperado showed up.
Exactly. They brought the sad ending to this little history lesson. It is no wonder so many people mistrust PMCs, eh?
I suppose not.
Raiden, what I said about staying focused on the mission.
Understood. No need to explain.
I say this because I have been there. I have let my emotions take over on the battlefield. Some of the PMC work I did after my discharge was... They were gray area jobs. But that's all in the past. When I took on those former PLA soldiers to form Maverick, I laid out my conditions. We would only take operations we believed in, and we would run them clean, no exceptions. Most of them agreed. They had their own bad memories from their time in Paradise Lost.
I can certainly attest to that.
Yes, of course. I forget who I'm talking with. Most of the ex-PLA have moved on now in any case. But the point remains the same. Everyone at Maverick is accountable for their actions. We are clear to take this job under international law. And we can use force against any cyborg hostiles under the basic rules of engagement. But remember, if we harm any civilians, on purpose or no, it will mean trouble. All kinds of trouble. So, stay in control and stay on mission.
Got it. Didn't you say you'd...
Then... This in any case, so it does...
Sounds like... Where the hell did Desperado get all these cyborgs anyway, Kev?
Hard to say. They're not as rare as they once were, but still. Of all registered PMC troops, we're still talking, what, 3% have enhancements? Maybe 5% tops. Mostly career military who got hurt on the battlefield one way or another. Getting their arms or legs back lets them keep earning a living. But most able-bodied soldiers are still reluctant to sacrifice their own healthy body parts. Plus, the surgery is highly specialized. Expensive as hell. Not to mention maintenance costs after that. Unless insurance is foot in the bill, most guys couldn't afford enhancements even if they wanted to.
Maverick's got some cyborgs. What's their story? They all wounded in action?
Mostly. I heard a few saved up and paid for it themselves, but just a few. There is this one crazy blonde guy, though. I heard he asked for a full body conversion.
The Patriots didn't leave me much of a body to begin with. I just had Herr Doktor finish what they started.
You know I'm just giving you shit, man. Anyway, yeah. Looking at the numbers, cyborg soldiers are still a pretty small minority. Not really surprising when only contractors in developed countries are offered insurance. Third world soldiers get hurt out on the field, and that's all she wrote. They can't work as a merc anymore. Most times, they can't really work at all.
Well, Desperado's up to something, because cyborgs are definitely not in the minority here.
I've heard of some PMCs covering the cost of the surgery for their disabled. The mercs get their career back, sure, but the PMCs aren't exactly running a charity. These guys have to work to pay it off until the company at least breaks even on them. Any cyborg breaks his contract early would probably be in debt for the rest of his life.
You think that's Desperado's MO?
I can't prove it, but sure as hell wouldn't surprise me.
So what kind of deal does Maverick offer its contractors?
Oh yeah, I forgot you're full-time too. You never contracted with us?
Nope. Boris invited me on board the first time we talked about it. We've known each other since Area 51. Didn't have any reason to turn him down, so yeah, never really considered the contract route.
Right. Well, it's actually pretty rare for guys on the ground like you to be full-timers. Most of Maverick soldiers are contractors, just like with any other PMC. It just makes sense. After all, it's never the same job twice in this business. Each mission has its own requirements. Force size, skill set, all that crap. So generally, we contract out on a per-mission basis, or a fixed schedule for longer jobs. A lot of US companies are doing it that way lately, not just PMCs. Besides, a good contractor can earn more than most regular full-time employees. Definitely a hell of a lot more than regular military.
And if they want to quit, can they get out of their contract?
Yep. Of course, just up and quitting right in the middle of a mission would cause problems. Just like any other job, you know? We'd want some notice to settle on a new end date, but hold up. You're not thinking of leaving us, are you?
Just curious. You still busy with all that other work, Kev?
You know me, man. Kev of all trades. I got a lot on my plate. Briefing prep, arms procurement, client negotiation, HR, biz dev, accounting, you name it. Lately, though, I've been focusing more on sales and on-site coordination. Oh, and advisor work like this.
Never sleep, do you?
Things have been better since Courtney joined up, at least.
Affirmative. Save complete.
You know, our last chat got me thinking about all the problems with PMCs.
Oh? You come up with a solution to all our industry's ills, then?
Yeah. Let's just change the acronym.
That's your solution? Just change the name and change the reputation, eh? To what? I know you like private security provider, but that'd be PSP. Private military security? PMS?
Well, the Montreux document uses PMSC, right? Private Military and Security Company. A bit more comprehensive. And a bit more awkward too, I guess. Seems like it never really caught on.
Yeah, we only use PMSC on contracts or when we're specifically excluding older style PMCs.
I guess once a name sticks, that's it. Old habits are hard to break.
Right. Besides, I think we're past the point that a name change would do much for the industry's image.
I get your point. Though it did work once before. We don't call them mercenaries anymore, do we?
Raiden, you need to save? Roger that. Let me know if you change your mind.
My apologies, Raiden. I realize we never concluded our discussion on carbon nanotube muscle fibers.
Didn't we?
CNT drove major innovations in the field of cybernetics, not to mention unmanned gears. As I'm sure you are aware, Walker-type UGs require numerous linear actuators in order to function. Previously, organic polymers or cultivated muscle cells were used to that purpose. But the advancement of CNT technology allowed for comparable power in a far more compact package. This meant the same size UGs could be equipped with even greater firepower. Take the redesigned Metal Gear Ray, for example.
They took all the spacey old artificial muscles filled up and stuffed it with weapons.
Precisely. Of course, UGs have improved in many ways, all to keep pace with cyborg advancements, you know. After all, the original Metal Gear program was designed to unite infantry and weaponry. As an evolution of this concept, the UG is now in direct competition with the cyborg. And the cyborgs already have an advantage with their maneuverability and smaller size, as you well know. Of course, UGs are not dependent on the skills of a human host.
Long story short, watch out for UGs.
Well, yes, basically. Cyborgs have matched unmanned gears in many respects, but then UG tech advances every day. Do not underestimate any you might run into.
Copy that.
Raiden, have I told you of the research I was conducting before we met?
Several times.
It was the Cold War. East Germany. The DDR. My field was infantry weapon research. It was a magical time. Secret research. Top secret, you know. All for the Soviets, but so exciting. I was free to explore wherever my findings took me. I never had a budget request refused. Not once. I was young then. Working, always working. Most nights I would sleep under my desk, you know. Call it nostalgie, but East Germany wasn't so bad. Nostalgie being German for East nostalgia, of course.
Of course.
Yes, the bureaucracy had its problems. But my colleagues, the discoveries. Ah, well, in any case, after unification, they suddenly shut down our entire facility. Everything I'd worked for, my job, my research, poof, gone just like that.
Sounds rough.
I've often said I would be a homeless vagrant if myoelectric prosthesis hadn't lent me a hand. Artificial limbs were crude props then, you know, designed only for appearances. They were hardly functional. If you lost an arm or leg, you were disabled, and that was that. The key was running actuators based on electromyography signals from the skin's surface, of course. This enabled a great range of movements, even more so than a natural limb. It was then I realized my knowledge of robotics and engineering could come in handy. So, I contacted a prosthesis laboratory in Dortmund, and I was hired immediately. Patents filed in my name made quite a bit of money, you know. Soon I was made the head of my own lab.
And that's when you started filling orders from PMCs.
Indeed. From contractors who'd been referred by their employers, to be exact. Workers from your industry quickly became our best customers. We were flooded with orders. But my field was never full body conversions. You can imagine my surprise when Boris contacted me.
Yeah. Our previous cybernetics maintenance guy went into hiding.
But I built on my knowledge and now consider myself an expert on all cyborgs, both partial and full body.
Glad I could help with your on-the-job training. Seriously, though, we're lucky to have you on board.
Yes, I should think we have both benefited from our arrangement. Which reminds me, do not forget our other arrangement. The cyborg's left hands, if you would.
Got it. That thing's fast.
Yes, faster than you, I suspect. In terms of pure speed, at least. But it cannot run circles around you forever. It needs to attack if it wishes to win.
Yeah, and that's probably my best shot.
Duh. Don't bother chasing. Let it come to you. If you can parry its blows, you'll have a chance to counterattack. Watch its movement, and wait for the right moment to parry.
Textbook battle tactics. Got it.
Remember, you can parry even while taking damage. Do not give up just because you are hit.
That thing's fast.
Yeah, but it can...
Yeah.
Duh. If you can... Watch...
Text.
Remember.
I've seen a lot of weird stuff, but this takes the cake.
Well, I'm glad you're entertained. Too bad you're missing all the fun. It's a real party down here.
Sorry, buddy. My specialty's cultural studies, not combat scenarios. If you're looking for my help in a brawl, you must be getting pretty desperate.
Good point.
Besides, if you've got time to screw around on the Codec, can't be all that bad, right?
We'll see. Okay, back to the party.
Everything okay, Raiden?
Yeah, it's a fascinating foe, but I'm not gonna cut it any slack. We're dealing with terrorists here, and AI or not, it's still aiding and abetting them.
Yeah, be careful though. You might want to save your data first. No? Well, watch yourself out there.